everyone. Welcome to your go-to Detroit Pistons podcast, The Pistons Pulse, co-hosted by me, Bryce Simon of Motor City Hoops.
And Omari Sacco for the second, Pistons beat writer for the Detroit Free Press.
And of course, we're always blessed to be joined by our producer, Wes Davenport. If you are not listening to Wes over on the Pin Down with Blake Silverman on the Detroit Bad Boys YouTube channel, you absolutely should be. Make sure you're reading all of Detroit Bad Boys content, listening to Locked On Pistons, Order of the Blazing Horse, all of the great Pistons content creators out there. But of course, we think you should be subscribed to the Detroit Free Press, reading all of Omari Sankofa the second's worth and work, and Sean Windsor and everybody else, along with, I think, a pretty free Substack, the Motor City Hoops Substack, where I have post-game notes and analysis. And today, I dropped a video breakdown looking at the defensive play of the Detroit Pistons in the second half against the Orlando Magic on Friday night. Real quick, O2, I was telling you before the episode, the comeback happens. I tell my wife, hey, Detroit came back. She's like, and won? I was like, yeah, they won. She asked how much. I told her all of that. And I was like, man, would it be crazy if I found a way to get to game 7? And she immediately goes, Bryce, you can't go to game 7. They always lose whenever you go to Detroit. You will be the most hated person ever. And so at that moment, I decided, let's just keep things as is and I'll stay out here in Kansas. So no worries, Pistons fans. I am not coming to game 7 to jinx this team.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later, but that would be the worst time for a jinx after one of the most impressive playoff games, not just Pistons-wise, but period, that you'll ever see. That was crazy. Chuck says, thank you to the wife. You're 0 for 2 or 0 for 3.
0 for 3.
Yeah, it's not great.
Not great. Not great at all. I think this sums it up right here. So, not so fast, offseason O, not so fast. Listen, O2, both of us have tweets that could have ended up on freezing cold takes this morning, right? And quite frankly, I don't think we're the only ones. I'm not trying to call out
people who tweeted straight up, it's over, they're going to lose. And I've done this long enough to know it's never over. But I did tweet that offseason O was beckoning to me like the Green Goblin mask. But the voice got quieter as the game went on, and it was clear that they weren't going to lose. So
I don't mean to call out Sean Corp. Sean is incredible, and quite literally, I would not be here without him. But I saw that he actually shut the game off at halftime and went and to Garden, or not to not a city, but to the Garden or outside or whatever. And then his wife had to let him know. It was honestly reminiscent for me of the Chiefs' first Super Bowl of the most recent stretch. I did the same thing in that Super Bowl. So shout out Sean. Again, I'm not trying to call him out, but just an example of even the biggest Pistons content creators and fans and all of that. I think everybody was kind of on the same wavelength at halftime. And quite frankly, O2, even at the very start of the second half, it's not like it was a great start to the second half for Detroit, but they figured it out. So where do you want to start?
Yeah, I was going to, we could just start there because they were down 17. I still think midway through the third, they had gotten it down to 10. And then I think it was Anthony Black and Wendell Carter Jr. knocked down back-to-back threes. And then maybe there was a split trip at the free throw line by Paolo mixed in there. And then they're down 17 again. And it's okay, if they got it down to 10 going into the fourth, they're in it, 17. That's kind of what we've seen all series, right? The Pistons punch back, but they can't sustain it long enough. And that's not what happened. I think P. Reed, that's when P. Reed checked in. So this was actually with 4 minutes stuff because he checked in at the 3:55 mark. And then they go on an 8-0 run to cut it to 9. And just such a crazy win. Let's just start there for them to, not only dig out of that 24-point deficit, which was right after halftime. Desmond Bane made a layup or something, and they trailed by 22 at halftime. That made it 24. To get that down to 10, and then back up to 17, and then essentially to rally from 17 down from the 4-minute mark of the third to 14 up by the end of the game. Orlando shot 4 for 37 in the second half. They were 3 for 27, I believe, in the third, and then 1 for 20 in the fourth. They missed 23 straight shots. And like within that span, it was like an Anthony Black 3-pointer with around 4 minutes left in the third. And then their next field goal wasn't until breakaway dunk by Paolo, like with 2:30 left in the fourth. So 14 in-game minutes, 45 real-life minutes without a field goal. Like, that doesn't even sound possible. And yet, I watched it live last night, and it's just one of those performances that's just unbelievable unless you watch it. We've seen them flip the switch, throughout the season, but that was still, I think, in a class of its own.
Yeah, I had people asking me, like, how did this happen? What do you think? What are your takeaways? And I was just like, I got to rewatch it tomorrow. And that's part of why I wanted to do the breakdown in the Substack is I wanted to rewatch, because when you're watching something like that live, one, I don't think I was as locked in there for the first portion of it in the third quarter, because you're like, okay, is this really going to happen or not? I'm not sure. And I missed a lot of things. And that's why whenever we get to talking about individual player performances, there's one player in particular that I think had a massive, massive impact on this that I don't know is being discussed enough. But I do want to bring this up because this is where I landed. Chuck says, I knew they would make a run. The question was, could they keep it up once they close the gap? When it went back to 16 from 10 is when he really got worried. And I agree. Or we had seen this all series from Orlando 0-2, where they build a lead, Detroit makes a pushback, they tie it up, maybe get up by 1 or 2, and then Orlando has an answer. In this game, Detroit got it to 10, and then it was Anthony Black 3-pointer. Excuse me. Tristan Da Silva 3-pointer. Anthony Black 3-pointer, and then Paolo got fouled going to the free throw line, and that's when Jalen Duren exited the game for a little bit, and that's when you insert B-Ball Paul into the conversation. And while I think that a lot of guys played great 0-2, this will always be the Paul Reed game for me. Just an incredible... Someone goes, how was he only, +7 or something? I was like, he only played 10 minutes. That's why if he would have played 30 minutes, it might have been a +20. B-Ball Paul was massive in this game.
Yeah, just the way he's able to immediately check into a game and just find ways to make small plays over and over that add up. And he did a lot of things just in that 4-minute stretch in the third that had kind of eluded them all series, just tracking down a couple rebounds, I think 1 offensive, 1 defensive. Like, he got to the line, he had like a really nice finish where he just kind of found a crack in the defense and finished, like, just small stuff that they had not been getting, especially in that game. And he checks in, and they immediately go on an 8-0 run to cut it to 9 going into the fourth. And now it's a game. And then he played the first 4 minutes of the fourth as well. And it just kept going. Like, I think it was a 7 or 6 point game by the time he checked out. Like, P. Reed, super unique player, super unique how he's able to just come in and just do whatever it takes, like however it looks. He even had like a really nice, like, behind the back pass that ended up not leading to a bucket, but he's got like the most, like, his bag is just all over the place. Like, he's got all this collection of skills that he could just apply here and there, in one way or another. He's going to find a way to have and that's what motivates him is plus minus. Like, he's going to find a way to have a positive plus minus by the time he checks out. And he does that almost every time.
All right, we are joined by our guy, Sean Windsor. Sean, we are talking B-Ball Paul Reed. Quite frankly, do they win this game without Paul Reed playing those minutes in the third quarter?
Absolutely not. Cade Cunningham says no. I mean, they all say no, right? But Cade Cunningham was pretty blunt, wasn't he, Omar? You heard him. When I asked about him, he said, his intensity won. He said not only did they win him a game, his intensity has won them several games this year. Duncan Robinson, we were kind of talking about his style, Amari and I were talking about this when we got off the plane earlier today at Metro. Duncan Robinson described it as him throwing marshmallows up there. He's just got this sort of these magical hands, right? And and they just kind of plops and then hangs and then goes in. And he can use English with either hand. He's a really clever finisher. When he shoots, it's like he wrong foots himself, but everybody else at the same time, but he's not really. And it's like, oh, wait, you're going to shoot a 4-foot lefty jump hook, whatever, off an offensive rebound? Yeah, why not? And it goes right in. Yeah, it's really something.
I just want to say B-Ball Paul is the most fitting nickname ever. Like, basketball Paul. Like he's basketball Paul. He is just a basketball player, and he's going to do whatever he needs to do basketball-wise to get you back in the game.
That's what I say. Like, that stuff fits exactly what his nickname is, and we all understand why. I don't know that I've ever heard shooting marshmallows up there. I don't think that that's a phrase I've heard as long as I've been around the game of basketball. I want to go ahead and get this out of the way. O2, I don't know how much you can report on it. Sean, your thoughts, but we've had multiple comments and questions. One of the big storylines of the Paul Reed minutes was they were not Isaiah Stewart minutes there in the second half. So Pistons fan 11 says Kuka Hill said that Stewart couldn't play in the second half due to an issue and no further details. I guess I will just ask you, O2, Sean, whoever, like, is Stu injured? He's not on the injury report based off what you tweeted out earlier.
I mean, he's not on the injury report. He hasn't been on the report. And, I do think about that last night. It's surprising to not see Stu at all, obviously. But, obviously, I think T. Reed was due for an opportunity. But no, he's not on the injury report. So I wouldn't expect him to miss Game 7.
So for me, I feel like I have to give JB credit for making that decision based off what we know right now. If something else comes out that we know for sure that maybe it was forced because Stu wasn't able to play or something like that, it would change it. But for right now, I'm going with Isaiah Stewart was available to play, and JB made a calculated decision to insert Paul Reed into the rotation there, and it paid off. What I will say, Sean, I want to get your thoughts on this. One thing that Paul Reed does that those two guys don't do, or at least does way better, is he hard hedges ball screens. He plays out on the perimeter and he'll put two on the ball and he's active with his hands and deflection. He's not the rim protector that Stu is. He's not the rebounder that Duren is. He's not a lot of the things that those guys are. But I thought that disrupted the Orlando offense, being able to give them a different look with what Paul Reed is able to do. It wasn't just energy. It's like he has a skill set and something he can provide defensively that the other two guys don't.
No, absolutely. Not only is he hedge, he's handsy, right? So he gets he's deflects a little bit. And he's got, even though we kind of joke about, the whole B-ball Paul, when you say he's a hooper, he instinctively knows how to rotate. Like Cunningham was talking about that too, right? He's in the right spots. He's where he needs to be. And it's not that, Stewart is too generally, but Reed gets there a little bit quicker. Duren's the one that can get lost in the sauce a little bit in that way. But I thought the way he was rotating and coming back down into the paint and kind of having his hands everywhere, I thought that was helpful too.
Absolutely. Okay, the next guy I want to go to, and listen, we're going to bury the lead here a little bit with a couple of these guys, but I will say this, the player I came away with more impressed after rewatching the game this morning than what I did in the moment and his impact was actually Duncan Robinson. Not only did Duncan Robinson hit 2 massive threes, but he made a ton of really sneaky quality defensive plays, whether it was rotation box outs, he had a help and steal dig on Goga Batadze. He was picking up full court. 0-2, there's a lot of underrated players on this team. And if I would have told you that Duncan Robinson's defense was part of one of the best comebacks, I guess, in this organization's history, playoff history, I don't know, you guys would know this better than me. I don't think I would have believed that. What a two-way performance from Duncan Robinson last night, 0-2.
Yeah, I think he's realized that this isn't a series he's going to win physically. Not that he thought that anyway. I think he knows that those are the matchups he tends to struggle in, but it's just being in the right spots, being handsy, active and engaged, and that's what he was. I thought he really had a killer instinct in that way. I feel like he played with an edge to him that he doesn't always have. And I just think you could sense the moment. He knew what time it was. He knew what the team needed. You saw him talking to Cade at the beginning of the fourth quarter. It was just a veteran stepping up and understanding what needed to be done in that moment. And yeah, they don't hold them to 23 straight missed shots without Duncan doing his part and all of that.
Sean, what do you think about Duncan's performance last night?
I put it in my notes. I should say notes. Because if I have to write this sort of instant column where you have to kind of have a sort of a take, right, and more or less at the end of the game. And I wrote, as I was watching him, this doesn't look like the way he's played defense the whole series. It was notable It was noticeable, rather. His energy, the way he was rotating. And I mean, he's not going to really stand anybody up, but that doesn't matter. He was in the lanes and he was where he needed to be. There was just more force about him. And he said this after the game, right, Amari? He said he didn't want to be the weak link. I mean, so he was motivated. He's like, he's surrounded by a handful of elite defensive players. And by the way, Cade is borderline elite when he is engaged, like he was in the second half, because his defense was not very good in the first half either. None of them really were. Even Ausar was kind of weirdly not himself in the first half. But anyway, I wrote about that I feel like Robinson's been a liability at times this series, right? And played off the floor. Not that, you know what I mean? In games 3 and 4 in particular.
And I think part of that was the offense maybe wasn't as impactful. Like we knew there was a chance the defense could be an issue, but obviously the points and the shots were big as last night as well. Our guy Keith Black Trudeau says most important comeback in Pistons history to him is Game 5 in Boston in '88, 16 points in the second half. Last night would be number 2, assuming they win on Sunday. Of course, winning on Sunday really kind of takes this to a whole other level, to be quite honest. The next guy I want to talk about, Sean, and I want to get your thoughts, is Tobias Harris. And what I've tried to tell people is I don't care what the shooting percentages are. I do not care that he's 43% from the field and 19% from the free throw line. I truly don't. He is averaging 20 points a game for a team that absolutely needs somebody else to average 20 points a game other than Cade Cunningham, and a team who barely has a third scorer averaging double digits. I looked at it today. Go look at other teams' third leading scorer. It's not 10.3. And so he's doing that while having to guard Paolo Banchero, as successful or not as that can be at times, and averaging 8 rebounds. This has been a massive series, in my opinion, for Tobias Harris. And I don't know what you think about it, but he's been unbelievable in my opinion.
I don't think I've ever seen him play better in the postseason. He's better than he was a year ago against the Knicks, right? He's more deliberate and he's more intentional. Boy, I hate that word sometimes, but it's such a yeah. Anyway, he's got a force about him. He knows his spots. Yes, he's not hitting the three, but he's got to take them when he's wide open. He's not forcing up threes. Those threes are either okay, so he got the ball at the end of the shot clock and he's in the corner. That's happened a couple times. But by and large, they've been kick out threes when he's open, and he's got to take them. He's just missing them. It's not like he's forcing up bad shots. They're not early shot clock threes necessarily. For the most part, though, he's waiting or finding his way to his spot. Or they're waiting until they screen until they get the mismatch, until he's got Suggs on his back. You know what I mean? And he did that late last night as part of a run. It was an important bucket. So, no, he's been really, really good. And he called the team out the other day, which I thought was helpful, by saying they were too casual and weren't ready for the playoffs. Basically, that's basically what he was saying.
So just looking at his career playoff numbers, this is the second highest point per game of his career. Now, it is very inefficient. Like I understand that. I will readily admit it. But as a commenter said as well, he wasn't supposed to be the number 2 option in this series. Like that was not what he was supposed to be. And yeah, there we go. Richard, thank you. But he has been that. O2, your thoughts on Tobias Harris and his play for this team, averaging 20 points per game in the playoffs, again, with 8 rebounds and the defense that he does provide.
Yeah, I mean, just the aggression, him coming into these games, understanding that if he's not that guy, they're probably not going to win. And I think that recognition for him has grown game by game, where especially, I think in the last 4 games, really even since game 1, he's kind of understood if I get the ball mid-range and I like, where I'm at. And that shot's been money for him, like not just through the series, but in the regular season too. That turnaround midi, super reliable for him. He's done everything except hit threes, and you got to expect that, that's going to come for a guy that has always knocked down threes in his career. But yeah, he's just been aggressive. I kind of like that intentional word, Sean, just in the sense that, like there is an intentionality to it. He understands that if it's not him, it may not happen. And he's got the game for it. He's been really good for him. He's occupied the exact role that they need from him.
Yeah, Michael says he's playing a lot and almost doesn't turn it over. Yeah, I mean, he's been a high usage offensive player in this series. And while Cade has turned it over a bunch, Jalen Duren has turned it over, Ausar has turned it over at times, Tobias Harris has kind of been the steadying one that hasn't turned the basketball over. Let's go to break here. When we come back, I think it's time to probably talk about the two players that people want us to talk about, Cade Cunningham and Ausar Thompson. 0-2, when we come back, I'll let you choose which one.
All right. We'll talk about Cade Cunningham. 19 points in the fourth quarter. He matched Orlando's total points in the second half by himself in the fourth. He scored.
I hadn't heard that stat yet.
He scored the Pistons' first 10 points of the fourth quarter. It was like a personal 10-0 run. Cade Cunningham versus Orlando to tie the game. And then I think it was Tobias. I may be misremembering, but it was either Tobias that gave them the lead for the first time or hit the next bucket after Cade got them the lead. Yeah, so Cade tied it, and then Tobias got them the lead. And at that point, it was 12-1. But Cade's the one that really got them rolling. And then they scored 31. So he had 19. The rest of the Pistons had 12. Obviously 45 in game 5. He has been the leading scorer in every game this series except game 5 because he tied with Paolo, who also had 45. Otherwise, he has had the highest point total in every game this series. Just how adaptable he's been. This has been a series that I think is establishing Cade as, if it wasn't already established during the regular season, a bona fide top 10 player in the league. He's a guy that can step up and win you a game. And that's what he's done these last 2 games. He's just stepped up and done whatever it took to get them over the hump.
Sean, I want to throw some stats at you, and then I'll let you talk about Cade. And you can do it, but I definitely want to talk about his defense before we move on to Ausar. Cade right now is leading the NBA playoffs in field goals made, field goals attempted, 2-point attempts, free throw makes, and points, along with, of course, turnovers. But with all of those turnovers, his on-off is still a team-leading 17.4. And, I mean, it just tells you what happens whenever he leaves the court. Now, Paul Reed has the best on-off on the team, but he's only played 19 minutes. And on-off isn't always a stat I love to go to, but what is the critique, Sean, other than the turnovers? And the turnover critique is fair. I think he's had some really bad ones in this series, and he's had some bad games and all of that. Otherwise, he's been incredible, including the defense in the second half, which you mentioned already as well.
Yeah, the only other nit maybe is really not his fault, because I think it has to do with his wind and the time that he missed and his stamina, right? For lack of a better word, because I thought in games 3 and 4 he was settling too much, especially in game 4, and he looked gassed at the end of game 4. Game 3 he kind of got going late, right? He's the one that propelled that comeback. I don't remember, what were they down 16 in game 3 that came back and took the lead in that game, and they couldn't hold on. He ran out of gas in that too. But I think his shot diet maybe wasn't exactly what he needed it to be, or the Pistons needed to be in those couple of games, but he's learning. Duncan Robinson was talking about this last night. It may sound funny, a team that's been together, 88 games now, I guess. But they're still learning. They're still learning each other. It's a young team. They have a couple of new vets this year, and they're still trying to figure that out. Well, Cade is too. And I think you're seeing him figure out a really tough physical matchup. This wasn't this way against New York last year. It was different. There were a lot of other stuff going on. His first time in the playoffs. This is much more physically demanding. And then in the space that he was with the collapse long, he's having to fight through that. And let's give you mentioned JB earlier. Let's give him some credit here, or whoever it was that suggested they start pulling him 6 minutes into the game, because that seems to have made a difference the last 2 games. They first did it in game 5, and it's all designed to give him more legs and more lungs in the fourth quarter, and it's worked the last 2 games.
The fact that he's playing almost 41 minutes a game in this series is absolutely ridiculous. I do want to talk about the defense. I want to give you a chance to talk about it, Sean. But my quick thoughts were, I didn't think he was very good defensively in the first half. I didn't think he was locked in. I knew he was disruptive off the live view, right? We remember the full court pickup steal, the double team steal, the passing lane steal. What I didn't realize was how many quality point of attack possessions he had. And two in particular, I put in my breakdown against Paolo Banchero. I thought he was really good defensively in the second half. Sean, what did you see from him on that end of the floor?
Well, just think of it this way. The opening possession of the game, the ball gets batted. I'm trying to remember if he was partly responsible for that, and it rolls out on the opposite end of the floor, so they have to take it out on the baseline. They take it in, and Cade starts to catch the pass and then turns his head, the classic football move, right? Instead of bringing it in. And that's how many seconds into the game, Amari? At that point, 18, 19 seconds into the game.
It's something like
and then and then it rolls out again, and they're left with a second and a half. And you're just like, okay, he's not focused. And that carry, I mean, he did score a little bit here and there, and they hung around in the first quarter, sort of. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say sort of, there over a point, but I felt like that was telling. I know that seems like a really small thing, not catching that pass, but to me, it was a small example of a larger issue that he just didn't, for whatever reason, have his focus for that whole first half, especially defensively. And when he doesn't have it, if he goes long enough without it, then the rest of the team eventually doesn't have it either. And it led to that second quarter. And they totally changed that. And that starts with him, his energy and his attention to where he needed to be and how forceful he needed to be completely changed. And when he does that, I mean, he's as good a two-way guy as there is in the league.
Any other thoughts on Cade before we move to Ausar Thompson?
No, we could go ahead and talk about Ausar because obviously he's coming off of two massive games. So people are clamoring for that.
I just want to, Amari and I talked about this when we were walking out of the airport. So what did you think the biggest shot of the game was? I thought there are two Cade shots. I thought his 3-point shot on the left wing when they had taken an 8-point lead, 9-point lead, and then Orlando scored to cut it back to 5, and you're thinking, 5. Okay, are they about to get this back to 1 to 2? And is it going to be possession by possession for the next 3 minutes of the game? I thought the 3 was, but my son, the basketball boy, he thought the biggest possession or biggest shot of Cade was the pull-up midi over Desmond Bane when they'd been stuck at the 4-point deficit for several minutes, and that finally cut it to 2. Because you're thinking Orlando's going to hit a shot. At some point, they're going to hit a 3, get it to 7, and that'll be it. So he finally hit that 2 and got it to 2. I mean, maybe you have another shot, but we were kind of thinking those were the 2 biggest shots.
I think the corner one, I had the exact same thought. I was nervous on the corner one whenever they had cut it to 5. And I'll tell you this also, I knew it was going in when it left his hand. I literally watched it leave his hand, and I was like, that's good, because he had really good arc on that one. You can tell, again, most of us here have watched every shot that Cade Cunningham has taken in his NBA career, and I feel like I have a pretty good beat on if it's coming off a little bit higher or a little bit flat. And that one immediately stood out as one that didn't come out flat. I think you're right. I will give you one other one, and I can't tell you exactly what the time was, but in my notes, I have a Tobias Harris 3 from the top of the key that he made in the third quarter, and I legitimately wrote, if they make a resemblance of a comeback, remember this shot. And I think it was one of those that only took it like 19 to 16, but it kind of jump-started that first comeback that they made to cut it to 10.
It took it to 19, actually, because I wrote the same shot because Cade had just hit a midi the possession before. So it was 5 points. They're like, okay, they got it to 24, and then he hit that 2, Tobias hit the 3, and they were at 19, and you're thinking, okay, so they're not going to lose by 30. They're going to start competing, right? That's what you're thinking. By the way, this isn't any special skill of mine. It's not. It's dumb luck of the position. Where Amari and I were sitting in the arena, we were in the opposite corner from where Cade hit that 3. So I had a direct line to his leg bend. I know that sounds kind of strange. When he took that shot, I knew it was good because he bent down and bent his knees. And as soon as he did that, I thought he's going to make this, because he doesn't always do that. And you're talking about that arc in the shot. That's where it's from. Sometimes he doesn't load up, and when he doesn't load up, he's not Curry, right? He can't adjust his arc with his wrist just yet.
And he got into it very quickly and fluidly.
And he had his legs in it.
Yeah. I noticed the load up too. He's just, he knew exactly what he was going to do. And, he just went and did it. I think when Orlando went 3 or 4 at the line, and at that point, I think they had only had 1 point in the fourth quarter, and then they got to 4 all of a sudden, and it was a 5-point game. But it's like, well, maybe that loosened things up. And then Cade came with that 3. And that just felt like the dagger that basically said, like, there's nothing Orlando can do that is going to stop this onslaught. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Well, the one where I felt pretty good they were going to win is when Bane missed the wide open 3 off the flare screen that they ran. I was like, okay, they're not making every one of these shots tonight. Okay, Ausar Thompson, I have a fun stat to throw at you guys. How many players in these playoffs do you think average 3 offensive rebounds per game? Ausar obviously is doing this, or I wouldn't be asking the question. Ausar's averaging 3.8 offensive rebounds. So for the record, he's second in the NBA playoffs in offensive rebounds per game. But how many total players do you think average at least 3?
Like, I'm just thinking about bigs.
They are all big. No, that is great. That is also a good point. They are all bigs other than Ausar Thompson.
I would guess Wemby, just because I feel like
you don't have to give me names, just a number.
Okay, I would guess maybe 2 other players, and I would guess that they're both centers.
Okay, Sean, how many you think averaging 3 offensive rebounds per game in the playoffs?
1 other player.
There's 11. There's 10 others. There's 11 total.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, but here's the point. He's second. Of those players, how many do you think average at least 2 steals per game along with those offensive rebounds? 0. How many? No. Now let's take steals out. How many of those 10 other players do you think average 2 blocks per game along with those offensive rebounds?
Maybe Wemby.
Wemby doesn't have the offensive rebounds. So now what is your answer? 0, right? 0. No other players are averaging what Ausar Thompson is averaging in terms of offensive rebounds, steals per games, and blocks per games. He's awesome, Sean. Ausar Thompson is awesome, and that was a masterpiece defensively last night.
Can you help our audience, maybe our region, understand this a little bit? Because there's a debate, and part of it is led by a sports talk show here that has several hosts that sort of have this idea that if you're not shooting threes, it's starting to drive me crazy that, and I'm not going to blame casual fans at all. That's fine. They're jumping into, they're watching what they're watching. But for people to have these basketball takes let me just say this. I heard somebody recently say that they need a second scorer and Thompson needs to be part of whatever trade package this summer. And Holland could replace him where Thompson is a 10 defensively and a 2 offensively. Holland would be an 8 defensively and 4 offensively and make up I don't have any air, I'd pull it out, but I don't. Can you, Steve, help our people understand this guy is different. There's nobody else like him in the league. His brother is not like him in the league. He doesn't defend and disrupt like this.
No, he's not this good defensively.
No, he's not. He is their second best player, and Trajan Langdon's responsibility. Look, I know this is a conversation for later on, but just real quickly, they got to build around those 2, and then maybe Duren, if you can get him on the contract, whatever. But what you're saying is just, they're not winning without him. They're not going to be a title team without him. They're going to go get Jamal Murray? Denver couldn't stop anybody. I don't understand why we keep thinking that defense doesn't matter. I don't get it. Oklahoma City just won a title last year with the best defense in the league. That's not coincidence.
And I think to the point, Michael brings it, Ausar is an 11 out of 10 defensively. He is the best perimeter defender in the NBA. I will not say unquestionably or objectively or whatever, because I hate using those terms whenever we talk about basketball because it's a subjective thing. But for me, he is so in the breakdown, again, I'll shameless plug it one more time. Go watch it. I do think it's pretty good. He has a verticality contest. Again, huge moment, guys. Duncan Robinson catches the ball in the corner, off balance, tries to throw it to Cade. It goes over Cade's head. Cade falls down. It's Paolo Banchero going to the rim up 10. Ausar Thompson sprints back. One, he gets there because he's so athletic, which, quite frankly, that's one separator between him and Ron Holland defensively. Ron's not that level of athlete. Yeah, and the strength. Ausar goes straight vertical contest like you would teach your high school son or daughter to do. And then on top of it, blocks the shot with his left hand because he is solid and he is disruptive. He can do both. And here's what I'll say. I think Sam Vecini, who I do game theory with, is as smart as they come. And he was adamant last night, guys, that Ausar Thompson has been the second best Detroit Piston in this series. Like, he would not hear anything else. And I don't even think he has to shoot. He just has to be able to make, he needs to be able to score from 6 to 10 feet a little bit better. He had one last night, I think, where he just got Suggs to 5 feet and then jumped and scored. He does have to do that better. Long term, he does have to do that, Sean. He is a positive value player. There's no question in my mind. And again, if you like on-off, he is second behind only Cade in this series in on-off.
No, and real quickly, sorry, Amari, Sam, and I respect Sam, but even Sam was talking about offensively, what do they gain? Because they're starting to bring Ausar up instead of Duren. Well, Thompson's better in the short roll, for one. He could do more things. But it also helps Cade because, Sam was making the point about, okay, then all of a sudden Suggs is on Cade, and this is when Wagner's playing, or Wagner's on Thompson. What's the advantage? Well, it is an advantage because now Cade's not dealing with Batadze or Carter, so his angles, he can see better. So that's one thing, right? He can either get a cleaner looking shot or a cleaner lob over the top or however he wants to get it to Thompson. So just the dynamic of that does give them an advantage, which is why the offensive rating, that's one of the reasons, right? Duncan Robinson's big three from the corner. I don't remember the sequence. You know what I'm talking about? Not the one to go up 13, but one when they were still by.
He was off Cade still.
And Thompson pushed the ball and made a pass. He does that all game long when he's playing at his best. And nobody else, he gets them off and in their offense better than anybody else on that team when he's rolling right, to me.
Yeah, so Cade forced the steal in the backcourt. Ausar came up with the ball, pushed, kicked to Duncan. 0-2, sorry, me and Sean got going. Your thoughts on Ausar Thompson?
Yeah, I mean, you guys have basically said it. He's terrific.
Sorry.
Defensively, absolutely, a top 3 defender in the league. I think about, and this was not even maybe a top 5 defensive play from him last night, but just second half, he's tracking Desmond Bane around the court. Bane finally, seemingly gets open from mid range. Ausar just kind of steps in. And the thing is, Ausar just, he makes it look so casual too. The way one guy would just be darting and Ausar's just kind of casually tracking him and then just times it perfectly to swat it out of bounds. That verticality play, he just does so much absurd stuff. Duncan said after the game last night, he does things defensively that he's never seen on a basketball floor before. And that's basically it. So much of the Pistons offense this season was Ausar creating transition opportunities. And then on offense, he may not be the guy that could shoot, but like you said, he could do stuff in the short roll. But he also tracks the ball so well that there's so many possessions where, he'll track down a steal or just beat somebody to the ball to make a quick read. And, and it's a 3-pointer or a layup that they might not have had. The way Ausar could just completely transform a game while only scoring 4 points. And I think he had 4 points in both of these games, these last 2. But he's also had probably somewhere between 15 and 20 combined steals and blocks and 25 rebounds and countless other plays that don't show up on the stat sheet. I think we saw it in the regular season, and I think we're seeing it during the playoffs where that he is the second most impactful guy on this team. And him and Cade might be 1A and 1B when you just account for the sheer amount of chaos that Ausar brings on defense.
Real quickly, was it Ronan that just said that? Ronan put up his weak side defense. Yeah, that's what's so unusual about him, right? Because he's the best on-ball perimeter defender in the league. Yeah, so he's starting to play weak side defense. I don't want to sound sacrilege here, but it's starting to remind me a little bit of Ben Wallace and just the way he tracks stuff down. He's not as big, right? Or as powerful, but just his awareness on the weak side is crazy.
I will also point out, to the play you're talking about with Desmond Bane where he blocks it out of bounds. Well, surprise, surprise, Detroit gets beat backdoor on an out-of-bounds play. Hope that's on the scouting report for Game 7. But guess who digs it away from Wendell Carter Jr. and takes the shot attempt away? Ausar Thompson. Like, he made back-to-back plays disrupting with the block and then the steal. And I don't even know if he got the steal credit for the steal. Like, to your point, there's a lot of box score stuff that doesn't show up with this disruption. Okay. I'm gonna have to go here in like 5 or 10. So I do want to get to game 7 now. So Pistons fan 11 asks, does that second half carry over or not? I think Detroit has found it. Sean, do you think that, like, what is Orlando's response going to be to that? Like, I think that's what I wonder is, was that a second half of basketball that ends up being a 6-quarter thing? Or is Orlando going to be able to respond to what just happened?
I think Orlando is going to bring the kind of force they showed in the first half. Whether they make shots or not, that's a different question. You just don't know sometimes from night to night whether they're going to make shots. I think that they will bring the competitive spirit. And they have brought it, oftentimes Detroit has not matched it. And they finally matched it last night in the second half. Obviously they did in game 5, although Cade had that outrageously efficient scoring night. And that really made the difference then, especially with Banchero going the way he goes. But I think, again, I want to say it was Duncan, right, Omari, talking about how they felt liberated, or maybe Cade talked about how they were free after game 5, and then Duncan sort of reiterated that after game 6, that they're starting to find themselves, that they're learning. And that's what I've noticed. If they can carry that into game 7 and compete at their level from the start, I know you can't fly around defensively for 48 minutes quite like that, but if you can just bring that competitive juice, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I expect Orlando to come out swinging Sunday. They've done that all series. I think their consistency is the reason why they've won 3 games, is that they just haven't had too many lows. With that said, I also think the Pistons know their formula to win this, right? They know that they could completely shut their water off defensively. They know that they're going to be relying on Cade and Tobias for shot making. It feels like they found a rotation that works, especially compared to those first couple of games. So I don't know if they start off with the intensity that they had in that second half. I think that was a different level, but I think they come out sharp and focused, and they're going to expect Orlando's best swing, and they're at home. So the Pistons should get this one. Knock on wood, but them at their best, that is a better team than Orlando is at their best, and we've seen that all series.
Especially with this, right? I think, to me, this is a factor that we always have to take into account. Franz Wagner is out yet again for this game 7, which has been a major, major point of this series. I mean, at the end of the day, if they end up winning game 7, they will be 3-0 in the games that Franz Wagner didn't play for the Orlando Magic. It changes their defensive matchups. It just takes away another guy they have to go to offensively. I think one thing I also want to ask you guys, what is the center rotation tomorrow afternoon? Can you not play Paul Reed minutes? Who is that at the expense of between Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart? Do we see the Isaiah Stewart, Paul Reed 4-5 combination like we saw in the first half of this game? Sean, what do you think in terms of the center minutes for JB in this game?
I think the 2 big rotation for sure is going to try that. I mean, obviously did it with Stewart and Reed. I thought maybe with Reed and Duren a little bit. I know he probably likes the Stewart Reed better because Stewart can step out and theoretically hit threes, so maybe that makes it a little more seamless. But to me, you'll go with Duren and then Stewart, and then you got to give Reed a look, whether that's with Stewart or not. And then if Reed is going to be Reed and Duren or Stewart are off, then that's where you go. It's game 7, right? You give him a look, and then you say, okay, this is what we got. This is who's flowing, and this is how we're rolling.
O2, what are your thoughts on what we see from the center rotation tomorrow?
Look, I'm not going to pretend to know which way JB's going to go. I think it's been tough to predict game by game. I do think P. Reed has shown that he can win you a game, and especially after that last performance, I don't think you can go without playing him. Maybe there is some sort of 3-way split. JD, I think, played around 32. If you want to get Stu in there a bit more, you can do that. On paper, I think 2 bigs makes sense. But yeah, it's been tough to predict rotation wise which way JB will go, because I wouldn't have expected a P. Reed, Isaiah Stewart lined up to lead off the second quarter last night. So TBD, but I think we'll continue to see Paul Reed.
Okay, I think we'll see Duren play. I think we'll see Stu, the first big subbed in, and I think we'll see Paul Reed come in, and then maybe in the second half, JB makes a decision there. I do want to get to this. We got a super chat here to close things out. Michigan Go Blue 1324. Thank you very much for the super chat. We very, very much appreciate it. Do you guys think that Duren will bounce back next series if they win Sunday? I think it depends on the matchup a little bit. That Toronto team, if that's who it is very active defensively. And then Cleveland obviously has both Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. Without getting into it too much, Sean, I have some worries we could see similar type of stuff from Jalen Duren unless there's just growth from him getting out of this series and into a new matchup. But I think both of those teams would provide a tough matchup for him as well.
I agree. I think Cleveland would be a little easier, though, because especially Mobley and Allen is a vet and got some savviness, but he can overpower the Cleveland in a way that he just can't Wendell Carter or even Vitadze. Not that they've lined up that much in this matchup, but so Toronto might be a little bit trickier, but I'm with you. I think he gets out of this and maybe finds his way. I don't know if we're going to see the Duren of the regular season, maybe at all in the playoffs, but I think he could be a little bit better for sure. And the matchup, I would think, would help him against Cleveland.
All right. M. B. Well asked for predictions. I'll give mine. I think the Pistons are going to win. I'm not going to ask Amari and Sean to give predictions. They can if they absolutely want to. Our schedule here moving forward is we will let you guys know. Okay, it probably depends on how things go on Sunday. If they win, we'll be on Monday. We're not going to record tomorrow. Amari has work to do. There's stuff going on. If they win, we'll probably be back on Monday. If they happen to lose, then we'll probably go a couple days, depending on when exit interviews and let things dial down a little bit, and get some of our off-season thoughts together and all of that. So a Pistons win on Sunday. We will probably be back on Monday. The alternative may be a couple days after that. Sean, before we get out of here, any final thoughts from you?
Just, I obviously Wagner being out is a big part of this, but I just go back to what Duncan Robinson said, that they're still learning, they're still figuring it out. And if they can get out of this and get past Game 7, you might see a team that's got its figure out its competitive urges a little bit more and maybe even play a little bit more freely. And we might see the team we saw in the regular season a little bit more frequently if they can get past tomorrow.
Love it. O2, your final thoughts, and then you can take it away.
Yeah, I agree with Sean. I think you get past tomorrow and, maybe that works off the last of whatever motor issues they've had throughout the series. So like I said earlier, they have a formula. It's the same formula that worked during the regular season. Execute that and you'll be in pretty good shape. So with that, I'll go ahead and close us out. Big thanks to our audio producer, Robin Chan, our editor-in-chief, Nicole Avery Nichols, and big thanks and shout out to Wes Davenport, as always, and we'll talk to you all next week.